Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on their fight story. I have Shaun Shubert with us. Shaun, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Iggy. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. The name of your school is Red Seal.
Yes.
Where did you come up with the name Red Seal?
Uh, that is a story kind of where my martial arts journey began. I was doing classical martial arts, a lot of Kempo, a lot of Shotokan, um, point sparring, that kind of thing. And I started to make some crossovers into contact sport world, met some new guys as far as training partners, coaches, and I was really trying to break away from the idea of what traditional martial arts has kind of turned into as far as um, practicality and bringing those things along in the right chronological order so that people can learn proficiently and learn something that's tangible. So when I started to kind of break away from that, I wanted to not really forget where I came from and kind of pay my respects to those guys. And Red Seal was the acronym that I came up with, which was to redesign your education, your development, and to pay kind of homage to the eclectic guys, the Amok guys, and recognize the lineage where it came from. So that's how I came up with the name and the logo that goes with it.
That's awesome. That takes a lot of dedication to come up with something like that. Where are you guys located?
We're on Route 44 in Lakeville. We're squished between the Middleborough Rotary and the 24-hour Walmart in Rainham. So we're right off of 495 and 24, right off of Route 18. We're pretty central location in the Plymouth region, Bridgewater areas. Those are the towns that are kind of surrounding us, Easton.
Awesome. How long have you had Red Seal?
So I opened a karate school about 10 years ago with Paul Curtin. It was at Eclectic Karate, and probably about 8 years ago, I switched over to the brand that I'm using now and started to really kind of carve out my own little thing that I was doing. I started with trying to incorporate some of the classical martial arts, some of the new style of kind of street combatives I was training with the Amok knife fighting guys. Was doing a lot of grappling and stick work with the guys over at Gillette's MMA and Tim Gillette. And so I was really trying to bring everything together, and find a little home for everything. Um, then we started to really just kind of gear it down into just the Muay Thai, the strength and conditioning, and really just carve out a little niche for myself in this area, in this community. So we've been probably doing straight Muay Thai and straight conditioning for about 5 years.
Um, what other programs do you offer other than the strength and conditioning and Muay Thai?
I offer the street combatives, the Amok, and some of the grappling work privately, but I try to keep everything kind of the same for the gym, to kind of really grind that into the brand that it's more of a striking gym. It's not MMA, it's not boxing, it's not karate. I don't want to get too all over the place so that when people ask, what are you doing there? Well, I do a little bit of this, I do a little bit of that. And I didn't want the message to get confused about what the brand was and what the business was. I didn't want to get mixed up with, oh, you're a karate school, all you're doing knife fighting, all you're doing stick fighting, all you do grappling, you do MMA. So we do just the Dutch kickboxing, Muay Thai stuff, and just the strength and conditioning that goes with that. And we do it for kids, teens, adults. We have just fitness programs and just Muay Thai programs, and keep them separated so that it's really clear as far as what we're selling. And I still do offer the knife work and the stick work privately. So
when I first met you, you were doing an MMA fight. How did you go from MMA to Muay Thai?
I was always more proficient coming from the karate background, where the striking was kind of the focus of those arts, and we didn't have too much grappling when I was doing that kind of stuff. So MMA came out, and I just wanted to fight so bad in the cage. I wanted to be able to, use the kickboxing skills that I had growing up. I wanted to see how much my karate was doing for me as far as like learning how to fight and defend myself and so on and so forth. And I went into the sport not really trying to be anything big, I just really wanted to see, like, okay, if I'm getting, this black belt or, this belt or that belt from these karate schools, I want to know, like, does this stuff work against guys that are fighting, and somebody that wants to fight me back just as bad as I want to fight them, or whatever the case is, So that's kind of really how I got into MMA. And when I met Shaun Shubert, we kind of moved away from the MMA and moved in towards the K1, the kickboxing, started doing some Thai boxing, and it was just a really good fit for me, taking the grappling aspect out of it and, just straight kickboxing and straight Muay Thai shows where seemed to be a good fit for me. So that's where I stayed.
How has the pandemic affected your business?
Oof, the big question, right? No more softballs. It's been really difficult. I mean, everybody in this area was hugely affected. I guess, I didn't really suffer it differently than anybody else did, Board of Health came down, hey, you got to shut it up, you got to do this, you got to do that, and people that even would have come if we were open, couldn't, and the rest of the people were scared because nobody knows what's what and what's going on. So as soon as the shutdown happened, it was real tough for everybody. Nobody knew what was going on. I snuck down here and stole a bunch of mats and a bunch of equipment to bring it to my house, just in case, like I wasn't able to come here at all. Luckily, I was able to do my Zoom meetings from my gym, which is a big help when you have all your equipment here, when you have, a nice backdrop and you're not doing it in your basement or some kind of thing like that. It just makes everything look a little bit nicer, and it brings people's hope along, like, oh, he's still there, he's still doing things, like, even though it's on Facebook or it's on Zoom, like, I had a lot of people with some heartfelt messages, really just reaching out, like, this is really helping, so glad you're doing it, and, it was really nice to hear that even showing up to this empty place and hopping on a Zoom meeting or a Skype or putting on a Facebook Live, like, was really just like helping people through those first couple weeks, the first month or two, whatever it was, until we could start doing personal trainings and start, doing stuff out in the parking lot and really getting people together. but I had to shift my whole business. I had to shift everything I was doing. Some people were really all about the Zoom stuff, and they really liked it. And I actually still have some high risk people in a group called Rock Steady Boxing. They're all people that have Parkinson's, but we are working with their trainers to give them the boxing aspect of it, and they still do Zoom calls. They were coming in here twice a week, and they still are on Zoom. So, the pivot to continue my business is something that I had to stick with from day one. So I still have groups that are doing Zoom calls. Luckily, we're in whatever phase we're in now, where we can have people inside and we can do personal trainings, and things are a little bit more laxed. And luckily, I live in a decent area where no one's really coming down and knocking on our doors every 5 minutes and like hassling us. And
Yeah.
I'm lucky for that. That it's not raging out here in this area, and it's not too out of control. Where we're following, keeping people safe, but at the same time, people aren't breathing down our necks, and we're doing the right stuff, and it is what it is. But I mean, I'm no different than anybody else right now. Like, everybody's doing the same thing. Everyone's doing what they can to keep their business afloat and keep their head above water, and eat and feed their families and whatever else. But it's definitely affected me just like the rest of the country in this area.
Now, your classes, do they seem longer or shorter based on the whole protocol that, before training, after training, all the new requirements?
Well, our days got really kind of screwy when we were doing everything by individual trainings. You know what I mean? Now that people are back into group trainings and we're doing indoor, outdoor, we have a ton of space in the gym. So lucky for that too, we can keep people in small groups and keep them apart, where I can run a session, another trainer can run a session over here, and we're really trying to get people the most of what they came for. We're trying to keep our stuff, to the hour or the 45-minute classes that we usually do. We have some of the most high-grade quality disinfectant stuff that they use at airports and in schools and colleges, and we're just taking those extra steps that we're always doing to keep our gyms sanitized. Like, that's one of the big things. Is like, anybody that's doing this kind of contact stuff, MMA guys or boxing guys, or they know about staph infections and MRSA and all this stuff. They don't want that coming in their gym, because it never goes away. Once you got that stigma, like, we were always keeping our gyms clean, but now it's just to the max. And little things like door handles and railings on the stairs and whatever, that you maybe overlooked a little bit before, but for the most part, like, the guys that are doing this kind of like wrestling and contact sports, they're cleaning their stuff. Like, they don't want that bad name to go with their gym. Like, oh, I got staph there. Oh, I got ringworm over there. Oh, I got this thing or that thing. Like, people don't want that stuff coming out of their gyms. So, they do their best to keep it clean, regardless of the pandemic or not.
Yeah. You don't want that stigma. It's like, you guys work so hard to be where you're at, to have something like that set you back a little. How have you been doing your training? Have you been focusing on either mental or the physical aspect? Because, I assume you want to fight once.
I love to fight. I actually was having a really, really hard time at the beginning, especially while everything was up in the air. Everybody was kind of closed because they didn't know what was really going on. There was a lot of insecurity and a lot of unsure people on both sides, fighters, coaches, the public, everybody, and we all took precautions. So, even to take 2 weeks and to not work out and to have to rearrange your business and have to, like I spent, I don't know how many weeks putting up, new TVs in my gym and setting up Zoom and getting, cables to hook up my computer to this thing and that thing. And, I turned my gym into a TV studio. So I wasn't focusing on fighting or eating or working out or anything for a long time. And as things kind of settle, you got into a groove, but you're already kind of off a little bit, and it takes a little bit to get back. So finally feeling a little bit more back on track. I have been working out pretty steady the whole way through because I've been jumping around on the camera doing Zoom, Facebooks, and whatever else, 3 workouts a day because you got to be on there while you're teaching classes. They don't want to see you just sitting there barking at them. Like, you got to be up and moving and motivate them, so I kind of did work out the whole way through, but not to the extent that I would. And it's really hard to stay disciplined when there's, not something a little bit more dire to look forward to, like if I miss weight, or, I might not get to fight, or if I don't work out and I get beat up in the ring for 3 rounds or 5 rounds or however long the thing is, like, it's not fun, it's something that drives you to want to push and to want to stay in that more elite shape, to be a fighter and to be competitive and to, to be not just some run-of-the-mill kind of guy, like, you want to be recognized, you want to be, entertaining. You don't want to just be some guy that gets beat up for 3 rounds. Like, that's no fun. So having that in the back of your mind helps you go to the workouts, and it helps you do the extra reps and do the extra rounds and do the extra work. And, when that stuff's not even happening, it's not even an option. It's like, well, I'll just stay in regular shape, I guess, or I don't mind eating a couple extra pizzas or whatever it is, Yeah, so that's it. So I'm trying to get back in shape. I'm trying to find some place to fight now. That things are starting to open up. You see a lot of smaller promotions are starting to open back up and do a couple things. Guys are starting to travel a little bit. So, if I can get my name thrown in the hat and, hopefully take a fight, even if I got to travel a little bit for now, like, that's really what I'm waiting for. But again, everything's so much uncertainty that nobody knows.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being prepared mentally, so when the time comes, you can start training the way you need to be on point. Because, you can be physically prepared, but mentally just not ready with everything. Because this pandemic has really affected people in so many different ways that it's the time to really get the right mindset, so then everything can just flow better. Well, that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. I try to stay as positive as I can, especially because, people are trying to come here to relieve that for themselves. So they don't want to come to some place and try and relieve some of the stress from this pandemic, or trying to clear their heads or forget about, the outside for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. And when they get here and, the guy that's here is a bummer, like, you gotta kind of rise above that when you're doing stuff like this and put in a situation, and, people are looking to you or to, the atmosphere that you're creating to kind of like lift them up and take them out of a funk. So, you can't be, down in the dumps, or you can't be stressed out and, doing all that kind of stuff while you've got people in here, trying to better themselves and trying to create some of their own mental relief.
What would you like to tell the athletes that are either stuck in a slump or, just want to jump right in there and start training?
Well, I think that if you're stuck in a funk, that maybe you want to try and find something or go back to something that maybe brought you in the first place, and try and get creative with that and recreate it, and put some new flavor on it, and just get started, just moving around. Because once you get moving, your endorphins and, all those different chemicals in you that start kicking up that, make you feel good when you're working out, like it comes back fast. And it's important to feel that way, and like I said, I'm not special. Everybody else is going through the same stuff. It's about, kind of finding some of those guys and girls that are like-minded and staying busy and keeping each other lifted up. That's it. So, if you're down and out, like, see who's around you that makes you think, or makes you feel good, or makes you feel like, oh yeah, that's how I used to be, and like, let's get out there and do that kind of stuff again. And I think that's very important. This is a community of like-minded people that they're not gonna let this kind of stuff get in their way. And if you're from this community and you're down and out, like, there's plenty of guys and girls in this community that, have enough energy to share with you to help you get back up and get back moving. There's so many good local guys around here that are fighters and coaches that are doing great things. They're not that far away. So, I would say to reach out to people like you and Domenico, and that have connections and know these guys and know the areas and know where they're from, and find somebody to get out there and just start doing it. Just start moving around. It doesn't have to be, a death camp, the first day. You build up to that and you get back in shape, or you take it to the next level. But there's so many good people around here that are doing it. You just gotta look for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shaun. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we end this beautiful interview?
No, Iggy, I really appreciate you reaching out and, putting me in your spotlight for a couple minutes, and, sharing my business out there with everybody in your community. It's, to me, that's what's really cool about this job, is that, we get to travel around and meet so many people, and, just do cool things that, like, technically this is our job, like, this is what we're doing. And like, so many people would be like, envious to be in that position, like, where you get to, like, meet people and talk to people and do things like this, and instead of, sitting in a cubicle, or like, throwing rocks around, or shoveling, or, some kind of thing like that, where it's like backbreaking. You don't get, any recognition for the hard work you're doing. Like, this is a cool thing to be doing. This is a cool job. So I'm just really grateful to be here and doing it, and for you to, think of me and put me on this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Iggy, thank you. Appreciate it.
Ooh. Sorry. I just like a fly or bug or something.
Right. We'll edit that one out. Do it again. Take two.